I'm here to share some of the ideas and some procedures and practices that we use in my country to keep children safe in school. So I'll talk to you first about some of our ongoing procedures, and then I'll talk to you about some of the precautionary day-to-day procedures that we have, and finally some thoughts for if the worst happens. So, to start with, every member of the school staff, from the caretaker to the people who cook the school lunches, to the ayahs who supervise in the playground, teaching assistants and all teachers are checked against something called List 99. It's a government list of people who may not work with children because of either sexual impropriety, violent crime, or drug or alcohol abuse. Furthermore, in the last 10 years or so, criminal bureau checking has begun, and anybody who works in a school, whatever their function, is, we call it CRB checked, and that's done independently by the police. We look at child abuse, both in a broad sense. We look at it from physical safety. Is the child safe physically? Are they emotionally safe? Are they sexually safe? Are they physically cared for in the sense of adequately clothed and fed and given medical attention when they need it and so on? We have a legal responsibility as teachers to report any concerns we have. We have a designated pastoral officer who is also one of our chief child protection officers, who is extremely involved in ensuring that children feel safe at school, that children know that they can approach her when they need to. She does a special assembly every year with all the children to explain what is her function, where her office is, how to reach her if she's not in her office. And children will go to her with anything from "my friends are not my friends anymore," I'm sure we've all met that, to serious disclosures of various kinds of abuse. If children do disclose and come and tell, it may be our pastoral officer, but they may tell their class teacher, they may tell a teaching assistant. Sometimes they'll tell a parent who will come into school to say to us, "There's a problem." And sometimes they'll talk to another child, and that child will bring them to a member of staff and say, "My friend has a big problem, can you help?" And we always listen to them. The pastoral officer is, as it were, the official face of the school in terms of dealing with social services and the police if they need to be alerted, and they will react very quickly. I've seen a child who reported that she was being very badly beaten at home, but I've seen her taken from her mother by the police and put into a place of safety, where she remains till this day. People coming in and out of the school. Many of you may have heard nearly 20 years ago now about the massacre at Dunblane School, where a gunman got into a primary school and killed 20-odd small children and their teacher. That was quite a watershed in terms of security in British schools, as a result of which doors and gates were no longer left open with free access to anybody who came, which for the first 20 years of my teaching was the case. Gates were open, front door of the school was open, people would come in and find who they needed to speak to. Now we have gated entry, and all visitors are signed in by the office staff and given a badge to wear while they're in the school, which identifies who they are and what they look like. There's a digital photo put on it. If members of staff have concerns about a child, whether it's a sudden change in behaviour, lively, ebullient child has become very withdrawn, or a rather quiet child has become given to aggressive behaviour and rudeness. Teachers will fill in, they actually should fill in what we call the pink form, which states their concern and is given to one of our child protection officers. Teachers are trained by law, not just teachers, but anyone who works in a school must be trained in child protection procedures fully at the beginning, so that's a 2-day course done by independent consultants. And then every 2 years, everybody from caretaker upwards must have a half-day refresher course to refresh our minds on procedures, on any new legislation that's come up around child safety in schools and child safety generally. And those trainings have to be meticulously recorded because on the periodic front, you probably heard of Ofsted, which is our official inspection body. When they come in, one of the 4 areas that they judge a school on is what's called safeguarding, which is the safety of children. And if that's deemed to be inadequate, and they're very, very tight on their procedures, if that is deemed to be inadequate, the entire inspection is failed, which has very big consequences for the head teacher and for the school. We have very clear procedures in case of allegations against teachers. Staff are trained. It's not that we're watching obsessively at our colleagues, but staff are trained to be aware of when perhaps familiarity with children, it is our duty to go to the head teacher confidentially and say, I need to share this with you. I should also have mentioned that when we take on new staff at any level in a school, not only are they CRB checked and checked against this 99, but references will always be taken up and followed up. And we have by law to state on any reference if we have any doubt about a person's suitability to work with children. We have to state, do you feel, is there any reason that this person shouldn't be working with children, yes or no? And if it's yes, you have to then state why. And we're always asked, in a reference, we must respond, would you employ this person again? And if not, why not? On a precautionary day-to-day note, staff are told, don't be alone in a room with a child with the door shut. And of course we work individually with children sometimes. We all do. But staff are told, leave the door open, preferably sit where anybody passing by can see, that you're working with a child, not huddled in a corner with them. We're told not to touch children. Corporal punishment is long gone in Britain, but teachers are warned not to touch children familiarly. It's a bit of a grey area, really, because if somebody falls down and, cracks their face open, and it happens sometimes, the instinctive thing is to pick them up and hold them against you. It's a bit of a grey area, but no kind of familiar touching is acceptable. Staff are vigilant around marks on the body. Children in Britain change for PT in their classrooms at primary level. And staff are trained not to look at children when they're changing. You can't busy yourself at your desk while they're sorting themselves out. But also to keep an eye for marks on children which may have been caused by overzealous physical punishment. And also a reluctance to change can often be a sign that children are hiding marks or being told by abusive parents, don't you get changed for PE, take this letter in and you'll be excused. We look out for children who flinch as you raise your hand to scratch your head, for instance. We just keep an eye on that. Children who self-harm. This tends to happen more at secondary level than primary. Children who cry frequently for no reason, worriers. Children who are consistently sullen and angry and withdrawn. We will take special notice of. The pastoral officer will take an interest in them and see if she can get them to open up about what it is that's worrying them. We also look for inappropriate or precocious sexual behaviour or language, and that is nearly always a sign that something is not right somewhere. As I said, we listen to children. We'll talk to children that where we think there's a problem or where they come to us with a problem. If it's a problem about a teacher, there's a very, very clear procedures to go. If there's an allegation made against a teacher of a serious sexual nature, there are extremely clear procedures which are laid down by the local education authority, which I think is a different system to what you've got here. The teacher is immediately asked to go home. I've actually seen this happen and been involved in an incident like this, which fortunately turned out to be spurious. It was a spurious allegation. Sometimes a child will come to us, and they'll usually come straight to me or to the head teacher and say, "Miss, my teacher was very rude to me." It doesn't happen often, but when it does, we'll talk to them about what they think happened. We will also talk to the teacher, and if the teacher has in fact ridiculed the child or been rude to them, we will then speak privately to the teacher. There are other periodic things that happen in the cycle of the curriculum. So, for example, we have theatre groups coming in to deal with how to deal with bullying, what to do if you are living in a house with domestic violence. Many of our families live in great poverty and tensions can run high. There's high levels of illness in families, of unemployment and so on. And children who live with domestic violence, as Dr. Nina said, are living with very, very high levels of stress. They may not actually be being physically abused, but they're living with it. They're hearing the shouting, they're seeing perhaps their mother being abused. So we have very sensitive theatre workshops for older children on that. We have e-safety days, where we particularly look at cyberbullying, which is an increasing problem, and it can have overtones of children being drawn into inappropriate behaviour on webcams and being approached by people that they think are other children who may be 20 or 30 years older. There's a range of personal social health education lessons, including sex education. And then, if I come finally to what happens if, God forbid, the worst happens in your school, you need to react promptly and with transparency and with integrity. And absolutely paramount is the care and safety and treatment of the child at the centre of this. I think you need to think about, before it happens, if this happens, we have a serious incident in our school, what do we need to do, and who needs to be doing what? Which people or agencies are we going to have to deal with? There'll be the child, obviously, there'll be its parents, there may be the police, there may be hospital medical people, the school owner, obviously, and the press are likely to come down and be interested. And who is going to say what to whom? You may here want to think about legal advice. We certainly do in Britain, in the case of serious incidents. And obviously, you want to protect the reputation of your school, because an incident like this almost certainly concerns perhaps one member of staff, and the rest are completely blameless, and the school is doing a good job with the other children. So there's questions of damage limitation laced with integrity, I think. And I suppose to sum it up, what you would need is a clear and simple policy detailing who is going to do what, and at what point, when, and how, if the need should arise. And I would think that in the first instance, that would be a matter for the school owner, the head teacher, and the leadership team. Because we all have a moral obligation for the safety and well-being of the children in our care. It could be our child. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention.